Great day, great day, great day. Welcome. We are reading the entire Bible and the Apocrypha and parts of the Pseudipigrapha. I'm Reverend Valerie Love. Welcome. And why are we doing this? Why are we reading the whole Bible? Who would do such a thing? What is really the intention here and the purpose? The intention here is to understand that the real God is not in the Bible. The Bible's not from God. The Bible's not inspired by God. What we have been taught in church is an absolute lie, and we are here to bust up all lies and get to the truth. Where is this book from? What is this book about? What is the purpose of this book? And though we do not know who wrote it or what their intentions were when they wrote it, we can only gather that from reading what they wrote. We will do our investigation the very best we can to get to the bottom of what is the Bible? What is the Bible? And so far, this is the conclusion that I have come to. The conclusion that I've come to is that the Bible is a collection of literature written over centuries. It is humanity's library, and it includes alien contact and our humanity's true origins, which are not completely innocent. We were told that our origins were innocent. Our origins are not completely innocent. We were created according to the ancient Sumerian tablets, and all scholars agree. Well, most scholars agree. Many scholars agree. I won't say most or all. Many scholars agree that the cradle of civilization or civilization began in Sumer. I disagree with that. I say that civilization began in southern parts of Africa, and we have evidence of that in the archaeological record. At any rate, before Sumer, there was civilization before Sumer. At any rate, we won't argue that point right now. At any rate, the bottom line is we were told that a benevolent creator, a God, created a man and a woman and put them in a paradise with all good intentions for them to multiply and be fruitful and fill the earth and love everyone and enjoy your time on earth and drink, eat the food and whatnot. There was no such thing as death, and that this was all very benevolent. It's not what happened at all. So now we are coming to realize that the stories we have been told that have been proffered in churches around the country and the world are not the be all end all of truth, and that it is each person's individual responsibility to search for the truth and find it oneself. Where are we in our readings? We are at the book of the Secrets of Enoch in the Apocrypha. Screen share. Let's go. Pardon me. And I looked and saw other flying elements of the sun, whose names are phoenixes and chalcedry, marvelous and wonderful, with feet and tails in the form of a lion and a crocodile's head. Their appearance is empurpled like the rainbow. Their size is 900 measures. Their wings are like those of angels. Each has 12. And they attend and accompany the sun, bearing heat and dew as it is ordered them from God. Thus the sun revolves and goes and rises under the heaven, and its course under the earth, with the light of its rays incessantly. Those men bore me away to the east and placed me at the sun's gates, where the sun goes forth according to the regulation of the seasons, and the circuit of the months of the whole year, and the number of the hours, day and night. And I saw 6 gates open, each gate having 61 stadia, and a quarter of 1 stadium. And I measured them truly, and understood their size to be so much, through which the sun goes forth, and goes to the west, and is made even, and rises throughout all the months and turns back again from the 6 gates, according to the succession of the seasons. Thus, the period of the whole year is finished after the returns of the 4 seasons. And again, those men led me away to the western parts and showed me 6 great gates open, corresponding to the eastern gates, opposite to where the sun sets, according to the number of the days, 365 and a quarter. Thus again it goes down to the western gates and draws away its light, the greatness of its brightness under the earth. For since the crown of its shining is in heaven with the Lord, and guarded by 400 angels, while the sun goes round on wheel under the earth, and stands 7 great hours a night, and spends half its course under the earth, when it comes to the eastern approach in the 8th hour of the night, it brings its lights, and the crown of shining, and the sun flames forth more than fire. Then the elements of the sun, called phoenixes and chalcedry, break into song. Therefore every bird flutters with its wings, rejoicing at the great giver of light, and they broke into song at the command of the Lord. The giver of light comes to give brightness to the whole world, and the morning guard takes shape, which is the rays of the sun, and the sun of the earth goes out and receives its brightness to light up the whole face of the earth. And they showed me this calculation of the sun's going, and the gates which it enters. These are the great gates of the calculation of the hours of the year. For this reason, the sun is a great creation, whose circuit lasts 28 years and begins again from the beginning. Those men showed me the other course, that of the moon, 12 great gates, crowned from west to east, by which the moon goes in and out of the customary times. It goes in at the first gate to the western places of the sun, by the first gates with 31 days exactly, by the second gates with 31 days exactly, by the third with 30 days exactly, by the fourth with 30 days exactly, by the fifth with 31 days exactly, by the sixth with 31 days exactly, by the seventh with 30 days exactly, by the eighth with 31 days perfectly, by the ninth with 31 days exactly, by the 10th with 30 days perfectly, by the 11th with 31 days exactly, by the 12th with 28 days exactly. And it comes through the western gates in the order and number of the eastern, and accomplishes the 365 and a quarter days of the solar year, while the lunar year has 354, and there are wanting to it 12 days of the solar circle, which are the lunar epochs of the whole year. Thus, too, the great circle contains 532 years. The quarter of a day is omitted for 3 years. The fourth fulfills it exactly. Therefore, they are taken outside of heaven for 3 years and are not added to the number of days, because they change the time of the years to 2 new months towards completion, 2 others toward diminution. Diminution means it means diminutive, diminution. And when the western gates are finished, it returns and goes to the eastern to the lights, and goes thus day and night about the heavenly circles, lower than all circles, swifter than the heavenly winds, and spirits, and elements, and angels flying. Each angel has 6 wings. It has a 7-fold course in 19 years. In the midst of the heavens, I saw armed soldiers serving the Lord with tympana and organs, with incessant voice, with sweet voice, with sweet and incessant voice, and various singing, which it is impossible to describe, and which astonishes every mind. So wonderful and marvelous is the singing of those angels, and I was delighted listening to it. The men took me on to the fifth heaven and placed me. And there I saw many and countless soldiers called Grigori, of human appearance, and their size was greater than that of great giants, and their faces withered, and the silence of their mouths perpetual. And there was no service on the fifth heaven. And I said to the men who were with me, wherefore are these very withered, and their faces melancholy, and their mouths silent? And wherefore is there no service on this heaven? And they said to me, these are the Grigori, who with their prince Satan, rejected the Lord of light. And after them are those who are held in great darkness on the second heaven. And three of them went down onto earth from the Lord's throne to the place Hermon, and broke through their vows on the shoulder of the hill Hermon, and saw the daughters of men, how good they are, and took to themselves wives, and befouled the earth with their deeds, who in all times of their age made lawlessness and mixing. And giants are born, and marvelous big men, and great enmity. And therefore God judged them with great judgment, and they weep for their brethren, and they will be punished on the Lord's great day. And I said to the Grigori, I saw your brethren and their works and their great torments, and I prayed for them. But the Lord has condemned them to be under earth till the existing heaven and earth shall end forever. And I said, wherefore do you wait, brethren, and do not serve before the Lord's face, and have not put your services before the Lord's face, lest you anger your Lord utterly? And they listened to my admonition and spoke to the four ranks in heaven. And lo, as I stood with those two men, four trumpets trumpeted together with great voice, and the Grigori broke into song with one voice, and their voice went up before the Lord pitifully and affectingly. And thence those men took me and bore me up on to the sixth heaven. And there I saw 7 bands of angels, very bright and very glorious, and their faces shining more than the sun's shining, glistening. And there is no difference in their faces or behavior or manner of dress. And these make the orders, and learn the goings of the stars, and the duration of the moon, or revolution of the sun, and the good government of the world. And when they see evil doing, they make commandments and instructions, and sweet and loud singing, in all songs of praise. These are the archangels, who are above angels, measure all life in heaven and on earth, and the angels who are appointed over seasons and years, the angels who are over rivers and sea, and who are over the fruits of the earth, and the angels who are over every grass, giving food to all, to every living thing, and the angels who write all the souls of men, and all their deeds and all their lives before the Lord's face. In their midst are 6 phoenixes, and 6 cherubim, and 6 winged ones, continually with one voice, singing one voice. And it is not possible to describe their singing. And they rejoice before the Lord at his footstool. And those 2 men lifted me up thence onto the 7th heaven. Ooh, baby, we're going to the 7th heaven. And I saw there a very great light, and fiery troops of great archangels, incorporeal forces and dominions, orders and governments, cherubim and seraphim, thrones and many-eyed ones, 9 regiments, the Ionit stations of light. And I became afraid and began to tremble with great terror. And those men took me and led me after them and said to me, "Have courage, Enoch, do not fear." And showed me the Lord from afar, sitting on his very high throne. For what is there on the 10th heaven, since the Lord dwells there? On the 10th heaven is God. In the Hebrew tongue, he is called Aravat. And all the heavenly troops would come and stand on the 10 steps according to their rank, and would bow down to the Lord, and would again go to their places in joy and felicity, singing songs in the boundless light with small and tender voices, gloriously serving him. And the cherubim and the seraphim standing about the throne, the 6-winged and many-eyed ones, do not depart, standing before the Lord's face, doing his will, and cover his whole throne, singing with gentle voice before the Lord's face, "Holy, holy, holy, Lord, ruler of Sabaoth. Heavens and earth are full of your glory." When I saw these things, those men said to me, "Enoch, thus far it is commanded us to journey with you." And those men went away from me, and thereupon I saw them not. And I remained alone at the end of the 7th heaven, and became afraid, and fell on my face, and said to myself, "Woe is me, what has befallen me?" And the Lord sent one of his glorious angels, the archangel Gabriel. And he said to me, "Have courage, Enoch, do not fear. Arise before the Lord's face into eternity. Arise, come with me." And I answered him and said in myself, "My Lord, my soul is departed from me, from terror and trembling." And I called to the men who led me up to this place. On them I relied, and it is with them I go before the Lord's face. And Gabriel caught me up as a leaf caught up by the wind, and placed me before the Lord's face. And I saw the 8th heaven, which is called in the Hebrew tongue Muzaloth, changer of the seasons, of drought and of wet, and of the 12 constellations of the circle of the firmament, which are above the 7th heaven. And I saw the 9th heaven, which is called in Hebrew Kuchavim, where are the heavenly homes of the 12 constellations of the circle of the firmament. On the 10th heaven, which is called Aravoth, I saw the appearance of the Lord's face, like iron made to glow in fire, and brought out, emitting sparks, and it burns. Thus, in a moment of eternity, I saw the Lord's face. But the Lord's face is ineffable, marvelous, and very awful, and very, very terrible. And who am I to tell of the Lord's unspeakable being, and of his very wonderful face? And I cannot tell the quantity of his many instructions and various voices. The Lord's throne is very great, and not made with hands, nor the quantity of those standing round him, troops of cherubim and seraphim, nor their incessant singing, nor his immutable beauty. And who shall tell of the ineffable greatness of his glory? And I fell prone and bowed down to the Lord. And the Lord with his lips said to me, "Have courage, Enoch, do not fear. Arise and stand before my face into eternity." And the arc strategy, the arc is strategy. One moment. The arc is strategy. This is the chief like the strategic officer, Michael, lifted me up and led me to before the Lord's face. And the Lord said to his servants, tempting them, let Enoch stand before my face into eternity. And the glorious ones bowed down to the Lord and said, let Enoch go according to your word. And the Lord said to Michael, go and take Enoch from out of his earthly garments and anoint him with my sweet ointment and put him into the garments of my glory. And Michael did thus as the Lord told him. He anointed me and dressed me. And the appearance of that ointment is more than the great light. And his ointment is like sweet dew, and its smell mild, shining like the sun's rays. And I looked at myself and I was like transfigured, one of his glorious ones. And the Lord summoned one of his archangels by name Pravuil. Pravuil. Help me with these names. Whose knowledge was quicker in wisdom than the other archangels, who wrote all the deeds of the Lord. And the Lord said to Pravuil, bring out the books from my storehouses and a reed of quick writing, and give it to Enoch, and deliver to him the choice and comforting books out of your hand. And he was telling me all parts of heaven, earth and sea, and all the elements, their passages and goings, and the thunderings of the thunders, the sun and the moon, the goings and changings of the stars, the seasons, years, days, and hours, the risings of the wind, the numbers of the angels, and the formation of their songs, and all human things, the tongue of every human song in life, the commandments, instructions, and sweet voiced singings, and all things that it is fitting to learn. And Pravuil told me, all the things that I have told you, we have written. Sit and write all the souls of mankind, however many of them are born, and the places prepared for them to eternity, for all souls are prepared to eternity before the formation of the world. And all double 30 days and 30 nights. And I wrote out all things exactly, and wrote 366 books. We'll pause here. If you came for the reading of the Bible and the Apocrypha and parts of the Pseudipigrapha, there you have it. Now let's get into the commentary. So they gave Enoch a magic pen. But first, they made a potion and put it all over him, and he was glowing. They gave him a magic potion that made him glow. Okay. Do you see why I think some people were like, we don't want this in the Bible. We don't know what it is. We don't want this in the Bible. Can you see why that would have happened? How you loving? Come on in. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about Enoch and his experiences all over the universe. This is quite fascinating. Now, here's one thing that I absolutely love about Enoch. It is so mystical. It is so out there. It is so cosmic and celestial that whenever you read the books of Enoch, you're just automatically somewhere in the cosmos, floating maybe between Venus and what's the next one from Venus? I don't know, maybe floating somewhere between Mars and Venus. And you're just kind of hanging out in the cosmos on your big spaceship with Enoch seeing 6-winged creatures and 12-winged creatures and Chaldry and phoenixes, and counting every day and every night and every sun and every moon, and then being taken to this heaven, and then this heaven, and then this heaven, and then this heaven, and then this heaven, and on the very, very, very top heaven, the 10th heaven, it's the great Lord sitting on the throne. There's always a throne. You know, the Anunnaki love thrones. This is my throne. This is where I'm sitting. This is because I'm great and I'm wonderful and I'm higher than you. You know, they love thrones. And so all these harken back to Anunnaki stories. And even in the Epic of Gilgamesh and Anunnaki stories, and in the Epic of Gilgamesh, which is a retelling of Anunnaki stories, there was a scribe that they took up to heaven. And when I say heaven, I don't mean a metaphysical heaven, I mean the sky, like where aliens are. That's what I talk about when I'm talking about heaven in this context. We're not talking about angels here. We're talking about troops. We're talking about space cadets. We're talking about armies. We're talking about a chief strategist named Michael. We're talking about potions. We're talking about magic writing pens. We're talking about keeping books and books that this is all very physical to me. It makes very much sense that it's all very physical to me. And it actually happened. And it happened in a time long before humanity has remembrance of these things happening. That's why when we pulled those Sumerian texts out of the ground, it was so shocking to us, yet it was also relieving to us because we knew something had happened on this planet that we may have lost memory of. Humanity has a form of amnesia. What happened on this planet? That's what you see Graham Hancock going all around the planet to figure out what were these older civilizations before us and how did they get destroyed? Where is the technology? Where's the technology? We lost technology. We had a great fall. We think we are the ones who are the most advanced ever. We think we are the most advanced humans to ever live. That is not so, because if a person who was more advanced than us, let's say 200 years from now, found an old iPhone, they would know exactly what it is. Oh, that's an old iPhone. Or if they found something that was similar to something still in use in the day. So let's say they saw an old plane, and now we don't have planes anymore. We just have these drones that take people all around the planet. They can still equate, oh, it used to be a plane, now it's a drone. We're finding ancient technology and we have no idea what it is, and there's no one to explain it to us, which means the memory is lost. The memory of how the pyramids were built is lost. The memory of what the pyramids were for is lost. That's why engineers, archaeologists, Bible scholars, those who are historical scholars, not Bible scholars, they're Bible scholars, yet they are not religious Bible scholars. Let me make the distinction. And scholars who are history scholars, scholars of mythology, and of course, biology, scientists, astronomers, all of us are seeing a great story unfold right now. It's a beautiful time to be alive. We're seeing a great story unfold right now that is giving us a collective memory of what happened. We're finally getting to the roots of what happened on this planet. There was a many great civilizations on this planet, far greater than our civilization, that were lost to time and history and possibly cataclysms, great cataclysms. Yes. And what happened? Those are the puzzle pieces we must put together. This is why we travel to ancient Egypt. This is why I traveled to Teotihuacan. This is why I've seen Chichen Itza with my own eyes. So when you go to Teotihuacan outside of Mexico, when you go to the pyramids of Egypt on the Giza Plateau, when you go to Chichen Itza, Uxmal, and you see pyramids that are almost identical continents apart, and supposedly these people had no way of communicating with each other. This doesn't make sense. It does not add up. The mainstream story has many holes. And the independent researchers and independent scholars and independent question askers like ourselves are poking holes in the mainstream narrative. The mainstream narrative is the Matrix. It's the Matrix. It's the Matrix. Hey, love sister. Ah, thank you. Keep going. Yes, thank you. It is the Matrix. Uh, where some of these, maybe the writers were medicinally induced when they wrote it. Absolutely. So, Reverend Evelyn, is very fascinating that you say that, because in the ancient temples in Egypt, what do we find on the altars? What resin was there? Any guesses? Marijuana. Lots of it. Lots of it, lots of it, lots of it. Because now they can go and do testing and scrape up the resin. So let's say that there's a temple, and in the temple, there's the outer courtyard of the temple. I've been in many temples in Egypt. You'll see these temples when you come with us to Egypt in September. As you go into the temples, you will notice that there is a courtyard. It's described the way it's described in the Bible. There is the outer courtyard, and then there's the holy, and then there's the most holy. This is an Egyptian setup. They borrowed that and put it in the Bible, because this is totally an Egyptian setup. So that you go into, as it's described in the Bible, the temple that's described in the Bible, Solomon's temple that was never found, the first temple. The second temple, of course, we have the remains of the second temple, and it's over in Jerusalem right now. The wall, the western wall, stands of the second temple. We're talking about the first temple, the famed temple that is spoken of in the Bible, never found. Solomon's great temple, never found. Howsoever, there is a temple, I think it's a temple at Dendera, or there is a temple in Egypt that matches the description of the temple that is written about in the Bible, because we know the Bible stories are reworked stories. They take elements of things that really happened and reworked it for their people, which were the Canaanite people, the Israelite people that emerged from Canaan, the hill country in Canaan. These were eventually people who would become known as Israelites or Israel. So there would be the outer courtyard, the holy, right? You step inside, it's called the holy. And then you step inside of that, and it's called the most holy. And guess what was inside the most holy? An edifice of the god. So if you are in a temple of Isis, there's going to be a statue of Isis there. If you're in a temple of Thoth or Tuhut or Tuhudi or Jehudi, depending on how you say it, it's Thoth, Thoth. Also Tuhut. Sometimes when you hear Arabic people say it, they say Tuhut. And when you hear English people say it, we say Thoth. And Egyptian people probably said Tuhudi or Jehudi. Okay. Anyway, we're talking about the same being. We're all on the same page with that. So you see Thoth in there. And what was on the altar? They now can scrape up some of the remains burnt of the resins. What were they burning on those altars? Marijuana. I mean, among other things. Among other things. And Edward Dodge, let me give you a book right now. You will love this book. Edward Dodge is my favorite scholar on this topic. Let me show you Edward Dodge right now. And he's hilarious to listen to, because he's very, very, he's very entertaining to listen to. Just look him up on YouTube. Edward T. Dodge, he's an author. And he wrote this book, A History of the Goddess. Let me give you his website. This is his website right here. And I'm going to tell you some of the things that I've learned from Edward Dodge. He's amazing. Oh, Aries Moon. They had all kinds of plant medicines. They were better plant medicine aficionados than we are, because we tried to make everything illegal. Okay, Edward Dodge. He wrote this, A History of the Goddess, from the Ice Age to the Bible, by Edward Dodge. And guess what he says in this book? They were all doing all kinds of sexing, and he's on Substack. Let's see. Is he on Substack? Let me see. I'm pretty sure he's on Substack, because he's an incredible writer and he's an incredible author. And let's look up his book on Amazon, and I will give you the Amazon link. And if you would be so kind as to use my Amazon link, I would be so thankful. I would be so happy. That is a beautiful way to support the work on this channel. I would be so happy. Thank you for shopping my Amazon links. A History of the Goddess. Man, they were in those temples, they were sexing and all kinds of plant medicine. Edward Dodge. I'm looking to see if he's got another book here too. Okay, here it is. Let me give you the link. This is an affiliate link. Thank you so much for supporting the channel, for supporting my work and shopping my Amazon links. I just love you for that. And if I can also find it on YouTube, I will link it right here on YouTube for you as well. Edward Dodge. Edward Dodge will break it down for you. Edward Dodge will break down all the sexing and the drugging that they were doing in these temples. Here you go. Here you go, right here. Before the rise of monotheism, the early Hebrews were pagan and God had a wife, the mother goddess. The Bible tells the story of their divorce. Now, in church, they tell you don't get divorced, but apparently God got divorced. Goddess worship promoted equality for women, social justice, spiritual connection to nature and the cycles of life, cannabis, sexual freedom, celebrated transgenders, and practiced abortions. Because they were doing a lot of sex, and so of course they have a lot of unexpected babies. And if you don't want to have a baby, they knew how to release you of a baby. When the goddess was thrown out of the Hebrew temple by the monotheists, so too were all these deeply ancient traditions. Many familiar Bible stories and characters are reinterpreted by showing where the goddess appears, and the Bible is reframed by comparing it to the mythologies of neighboring cultures. This is the book, A History of the Goddess. And he would tell you, oh yeah, they were sexing and they say drugging. I don't say drugging. How you loving? How you loving? Thank you so much, Tasha. Smash up the likes. Listen, family, thou shalt smash the like button. Thou shalt subscribe. It costs you nothing. It's a tap of a finger. Do it. That helps the channel. That helps us get to more people. Do it. Engage, right? We love your comments. We love your taps. We love all of that. We love your subscribes. We love all of that. Thank you, Tasha, for the reminder, because sometimes I forget to say that. Okay. These ancient people, totally orgies in the temple, totally weed, cannabis burning, everybody in the vibe, babies, worship, moon and sun flowing, goddesses everywhere, free sex, baby. It was on and popping until God got a divorce. And then next thing you know, clamping down, clamping down, clamping down. Yet, some scholars tell us that the goddess worship continued all the way past the time of Jesus in Jewish circles. They were still revering the goddess. So remember this, remember this. This is something I want you to remember. You gracefully tap the button. I love it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I love you all for that. Share this, share this, share this. Remember something. The Bible contains propaganda. So when you hear Jeremiah, don't forget Jeremiah 44. Jeremiah 44 is a smoking gun. Let's go to Jeremiah 44. Because Jeremiah 44 is the smoking gun. We didn't get to Jeremiah yet. However, I do know that we're getting there. I'm just going to show you, we're not reading from the new NIV. That is a copywritten version of the Bible. Let it down to World English Bible. We're safe there. This is a public domain Bible. We can read from it. Thank you, World English Bible. Baby, let me tell you, do you see Jeremiah? Do you see Jeremiah Jeremiah was what they call a Yahwist. It's Yahweh, 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 Yahweh. Yet it was Yahweh and his Asherah, because Yahweh and Asherah were married. And everywhere you saw Yahweh and his Asherah, Yahweh and his Asherah, or Asherah or Asherah, however you like to pronounce it. Yahweh and his Asherah, Yahweh and his Asherah, Yahweh and his Asherah. Asherah is a reimagining of Ishtar, Babylonian goddess. Asherah in the Canaanite world. Asherah, or I won't say a reimagining, I will say She lived on in Ashur. You can't kill the goddess. The goddess is not going anywhere. The goddess is alive and well right now. The goddess has always been alive and well. The goddess has always been doing what the goddess does. The goddess right now is helping people get cannabis in places where it's illegal. People never stopped taking cannabis. People never stopped using cannabis. I don't care what laws are written on the books. Okay, let's go to Jeremiah. This is Jeremiah telling the women, stop it. Stop worshiping the Queen of Heaven. Okay? Stop worshiping the Queen of Heaven. This is what he said. He's coming to the women. Listen, Yahweh said, you have to stop worshiping the Queen of Heaven. And you have to stop doing that. That's why we're having all these problems. Because y'all are out here doing all your goddess worship, dancing under the moon. Stop it. And just be one God, just Yahweh. And here this is. And what did the women tell him? Edward Dodge was the one that put me onto this chapter in the Bible. I was like, well, wait a minute. That's in the Bible? Let me go. Jeremiah 44. Wait a minute. Let me get my Bible. Edward Dodge was the one who taught me about this. What? Here you go. Then all the men who knew that their wives burned incense to other gods, and all the women who stood by, a great assembly, even all the people who lived in the land of Egypt and Pathros, answered Jeremiah, saying, as for the word that you have spoken to us in Yahweh's name, we will not listen to you. They told him, but we will certainly perform every word that has gone out of our mouth to burn incense to the queen of the sky. Some books, some Bible versions call it Queen of Heaven, who was Ishtar, was known as the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings to her, as we have done, we and our fathers, our kings and our princes. Everybody was pouring out offerings to the Queen of Heaven in the cities of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem. In Jerusalem, they were doing it. In Judah, they were doing it. And for then we had plenty of food and were well and saw no evil. We were doing our rituals and we were good. But since we stopped burning incense to the Queen of the sky and pouring out drink offerings to her, we have lacked all things that have been consumed by the sword and by famine. Therefore, they're going back and they said, when we burned incense to the Queen of sky and poured out drink offerings to her, did we make her cakes to worship her and pour out drink offerings without our husbands? No, our husbands were with us and they saw us do it. And Jeremiah is like, no, don't do it, because Jeremiah was this very fanatical person. But they told you in church that you ought to listen to Jeremiah. Yet the Bible didn't tell you you ought to listen to Jeremiah. If you just read the Bible for the Bible's sake, it's just talking about a man arguing with some other women. And the women tell him kick rocks, and eventually they got Jeremiah out of there. It doesn't mean Jeremiah was right. It doesn't mean the women were right. It's a story. Church took a side. Jeremiah. See, Jeremiah the prophet. I love Jeremiah just as much as any other prophet. I think the prophets are amazing. I love all of them. These stories are outrageous stories. They're like Lord of the Rings. I love it. And I love the women worshiping the cakes too. I love the whole story. The women are like, wait a minute. No, we're burning incense. We're pouring out our drink offerings and we're doing all our rituals, and our husbands are with us too. And the kings were doing it and the princes were doing it. Everyone was doing it until you came along, Jeremiah. Y'all and these prophets, y'all was trying to get us to just do. Do you think that they just came and told these people who were worshiping all these gods, and you have a shrine in your house, you have this God, you have this God, you have this God, and this God has a wife, and this God has a wife, and everybody knew all the gods and all the rituals and all the moon cycles? And do you think you're going to now come and tell these people it's one now? One what? One God. What a ridiculous idea. Anyone who ever said that throughout history has gone down. It was very bad for them. It was very bad for them. They kept trying to get you to this one God thing. Now, on one hand, it is absolutely accurate that there is one infinite source. On the other hand, the way they were putting it to the people is a control mechanism that they want you to believe in this outer thing, this entity, this imagined entity, and his name is Yahweh, and he has a son, and he doesn't have a wife, and he wants you to do this, and he wrote a book, and you have to come to this church, and you have to do what he says, otherwise you're going to heaven. All that crap was made up. So yes, they were accurate in the aspect of there is one infinite source. This is what they miss. They miss that the one infinite source has infinite ways of expressing. It could express as Oshun. It could express as Yemaya. It could express as Diana, as Artemis. It could express as Zeus. And fill in the blank. This infinite source can express as many different types of beings. Do you know how many beings live in this universe? This universe is vast, uncountable beings in this universe. I could not even tell you how many beings are in this universe. This is a vast universe. It's room for everybody. It's room for Loki and it's room for Ochosi. It's room for everybody. Put up your shrines, do all your angels and all your gods and all your goddesses as you desire. Baby, there has never been just one expression of the infinite source, and there never will be. The infinite source is expressing as a flower, and at the same time, the infinite source is expressing as a river. The infinite source is expressing as Zeus, and the infinite source is expressing as a lightning bolt. The infinite source is expressing. Why do we have limits on the expression and the manifestation of the infinite source that cannot be limited, cannot be named, cannot be contained? Just be at peace. Let everybody do their thing. Let this person be over here with Callie and let this person be over here with Oya. What's the problem? I don't see no problems with that. Why do we have problems with this? It's not, there's no inherent problem in any of this. There really isn't. Humans with our human brains are making problems where none exists. Cannabis. Come on, Denelzia. Cannabis has always been around. It will be around after the folks who made laws for it to be illegal are long gone. They can be mad about it from the grave. It will still be here. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Never affected cannabis. All those words that people put on paper never affected cannabis. Go in any city right now in New York to California, you can get all the cannabis you want. But the law says, okay. Dia, maybe Jeremiah is the one that started calling women witches, which means woman in total control of herself. Jeremiah didn't like that. I love it. And I've also heard that witch is women in tune with conscious healing. I've heard that one too. I've heard many different variations on the word witch, but the word witch didn't come into existence until Old English time, somewhere around 800 CE. And so this would have been 1600 years or so, or maybe 1500 years. If Jeremiah lived somewhere between 300 and 500, BCE and the word witch didn't appear. It's an Old English word. It didn't appear. It doesn't exist in Hebrew, doesn't exist in Latin, doesn't exist in any of these other languages. This is an Old English word that came into existence around 800. So there would have been over 1,000 years difference between the time purportedly when Jeremiah lived on the planet. Now, Jeremiah, is he a real person? That's another conversation for another day when we get to the book of Jeremiah in the Bible. Is he even a historical figure? Take every figure in the Bible with a grain of salt. The only one I don't take with a grain of salt is Jesus, because I do sense that Yeshua was a real, true, actual rabble rousing rebel rabbi who taught people, who was a great teacher. I get that. Everybody else, take them with a grain of salt. Mary, yeah, if Jesus was around, Mary had to have been around because that's his mom. Joseph and that whole story, no. They say that his real father is Pantera and he was a Roman soldier. That's what they say was the real father of Jesus, which would have been quite disgraceful. So they would have had to make up some other kind of story. And however it goes, if Mary was having an affair with a Roman soldier, because what Judean woman would have been kicking it with a Roman soldier? I don't know. Could happen. People from opposite ends of wars do sometimes get together. I don't know. There's question marks, and we don't have the paternity test. We can't swab the side of Jesus' cheek. Bring me that long Q-tip. Let's get to swabbing Jesus. Open up. Because we're going to find who's the dad. We don't have that. So we don't know. We don't know, but there's some stories that Jesus was, his fatherhood was in question. And Mary didn't tell. Mary's like, wouldn't you like to know? Yeah. So they had to make up a story about that one. I thought witchcraft meant men and women of the wise at one point. You're absolutely right. It has had many iterations over the years. So witch is also connected to Wicks or Wicca, Wicce, which is an old English word meaning a wise one, right? Now today we use many different um, descriptions for witch, and um, we've made different sayings for what witch could mean. Which woman in total control of herself. I've heard that one, which is a very popular one. Yet witches are not only women. There are men witches to a lot of men witches as well. All right, family, that's a wrap for today. Tomorrow we will continue with the incredible Enoch's adventures. Absolutely catch up with Edward Dodge. You can listen to one of his podcasts today somewhere on YouTube as you're walking around or you're commuting to work or you're just on your lunch hour and you want something interesting to listen to. Edward Dodge can tell you all about sex, drugs, and rock and roll in the ancient world. He can tell you all about it. He studied it. Baby, Mary was. Uh-oh, uh-oh, we're about to upset the church because we're going to be like, Mary, baby. You know what they did with Mary? Yes, that is a clutch the pearls, isn't it? This is what Christianity sought to do. Christianity sought to make everything virginal, pure, take all the sex out of it, make it lofty, make it the mother. So, the goddess has a triple face. The goddess is the maiden, the mother, and the crone. The goddess is triple faced. And you see the triple face of the goddess represented as a waning moon, a full moon, and a waxing moon on a crown that many goddesses wear. You see it on the head of the high priestess and on the tarot card. Key number 2, the high priestess. Let me show you what that looks like. We are currently in the book of tarot in the mystery school. So if you'd like to join us in the mystery school, by all means. High Priestess is one of my favorite tarot cards. Let's go to the images. And let's get the Rider-Waite-Smith image because I do love that one. Boom, here we go. Look at her crown. This is her crown. It is the triple moon, 3 phases of the moon. Whenever you see the goddess, think 3. Yes, they totally stole that too for Christianity. Well, not stole it, they repurposed it. If you got a good thing going, the triples, you got a good thing going, keep it going. The triple moon, 3. The goddess is in 3s. Now, because they wanted to make everything holy and virginal and get out all this sex, drugs, and rock and roll stuff that was going on in all these pagan temples, people having orgies and whatnot. And pagan is not a slur in my world. Pagan just means dweller outside of the city. That's all pagan means. Pagan are people who were dwelling in dwellings outside of the city. They weren't inside the city because they were probably dancing under the moon. So the pagans were, free love and having all these pagan style festivals, which we talked about last week, Lupercalia, one of the many festivals. And it was very much eroticism. This is part of the human experience. It was very much plant medicines. They were imbibing all kinds of plant medicines. Why do you think the acacia tree is spoken of so much in the Bible? That's a hallucinogen. We'll talk about the acacia tree in another conversation. Oh my goodness, isn't it delicious, Denelzia? All that stuff was hiding in plain sight in the Bible. If they had told us that there was sex, drugs, and rock and roll in the Bible, we would have probably read the Bible more. They're trying to get us to read the Bible for the wrong reasons. Now that we know that the women were like, Kick rocks, Jeremiah. We're not doing what you said. Our husbands were with us. The kings were. The women shut Jeremiah down so fast it was not even funny, and Jeremiah had to leave. They were like, "Whatever, get me the candles for tonight's ritual. What phase is the moon in? Where's our wine and our cannabis? Where's our incense?" And they were baking cakes with her name on it. It says it right in the Bible. Yet, I don't think the pastor will ever read to you Jeremiah 44, because then you'll start to see, oh, wait a minute. Everyone was doing goddess worship. So it wasn't just only God all the way back to the Garden of Eden. They just made this one story. It was just one God all the way back to the Garden of Eden. Wow. They pulled a fast one. But that's okay. We're awakening. We're awakening. Oh yeah, the triple goddess is totally the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit all over again. That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. The triple goddess, the Son, the Father, and the Holy Spirit is threes. They changed it around. Yes, they did. That's exactly what they did. And what I love about it is that the goddess still remained all along in Scripture. She's Mary. The goddess never left. So people who believe that people don't worship the goddess, they don't know Christians or Jewish people, because Jewish people have a goddess too. Her name is Shekinah, or Shekinah, as I've heard Jewish people refer to her. Her name is Shekinah, also known as, in Christianity, we say Shekinah, the Shekinah glory, or Shekinah light. Did you know that Shekinah is the lover of God who fell from darkness, who fell and is now going back to the light and longs for union again with God? She is, every religion has the goddess, all of them. Islam has the goddess, Christianity has the goddess, Jewish has the god, Judaism has the goddess. They just keep telling you we don't have a goddess, but the goddess is sitting right there. We don't have a goddess. The goddess is sitting right there. Mary. And Gnostics had the goddess, Sophia, who is wisdom. And the Bible has a goddess because Proverbs is phrased as a woman. She's wisdom. The goddess is all throughout the whole thing. So let's see with our eyes. I'm going to end with this, as Christ used to say, let him, her, them who have ears hear. I love you, and I will see you tomorrow. Mwah. Peace.